It's time to focus on seniors with Helping Seniors TV. The television show designed to make you aware of senior issues and needs, as well as to acquaint you with the resources available to help you age in place and with dignity. Now, here's your host, Joe Steckler.
I'm Kay Kaiser, and welcome to Helping Seniors, the television arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. Our show is designed to provide you with information on how to develop your own aging and care plans. Our topic today is Zon Beachside, luxury assisted living and memory care. Joining me today are Greg Kennedy and Laura Bierbaum of Zon Beachside Assisted Living and Memory Care. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start with you, Greg Kennedy. I understand your position is actually the executive director of Zon?
Yes, correct.
So what attracted you to being part of the Zon team here? Have you had additional, obviously, experience working with seniors in memory care or assisted living? Greg Kennedy?
Yeah, the excitement for Zon was creating a different experience, and that was really the goal from day one, is what can we do to create a different experience for the residents, and that was really what developed into the Zon 360, is how can we do something different for the residents that doesn't exist, not only in this area, but elsewhere.
Excellent. And Laura Bierbaum, your official title is?
Life Enrichment Director.
What can you tell our viewers does that mean? It's not per se an activities director per se, correct?
Correct. Well, whereas activities may be things that keep folks busy throughout the day, life enrichment has a purposeful element to it, that we try to find items that really touch the hearts and the needs of our clientele.
Okay. So it's a more personal approach.
Yes, it is.
I find that seniors that I talk to, and I've worked with seniors for a number of years, they all have their special memories, don't they?
They do.
And Greg Kennedy, do you find that an important, I understand you're kind of a hands-on guy here.
Absolutely.
You get to know your residents, on a more personal level rather than I've got another person moving in, so that you take a personal value, and I know Laura Bierbaum, you do too, but how do you feel that makes a difference to a resident's life in moving into Zon Beachside?
I think you have to know the resident. If you don't know the resident, then you're kind of going back and just delivering activities, versus life enrichment is what's right for that resident necessarily is different with each resident, and unless we know them, and you can't tailor something for a resident unless you truly know what their interests were or are. And
are in the future. And so, Laura Bierbaum, you come in and you kind of tailor those special memories and the things that trigger, hey, I remember this, or I like a certain music, things like that. Can you cite any other examples that might be beneficial for them as well?
Well, oftentimes I'll find that people may be hesitant to do something that they used to do quite well.
Okay.
So you might find something in a similar vein, a different type of art, or perhaps listening to a different type of music or a different kind of engagement than what they had done very well. And that's saying they might try new things to a point, but you're forever trying to find what is it that at their moment right now helps to give them some kind of life enrichment.
And I think that kind of really sums it up pretty good, Laura, and the fact that life enrichment is a little bit more than just finding a certain activity to stimulate their mind and keep them busy or socialize, etc., in the class, etc. Well, Greg Kennedy, how could you say in summary, what is Zon Beachside Assisted Living, Luxury Living and Memory Care?
Sure. So I think the best way to sum it up is our Zon 360, which is really the foundation of what we do here.
Okay.
And that was taking the 6 foundations for a resident that are really important, and how can we either enhance those services, improve upon what are currently delivered, and that's really, as you go across those 6 foundations, and Laura plays a big part in that with Zon Life and Zon Culture,
I bet,
of creating that different experience for the residents and tailoring it to them.
Okay, but Zon Beachside offers what's known in the industry as AL, which stands for Assisted Living, and then MC, standing for Memory Care. If you have, talking to a family and they've got a potential family member then they're saying, well, mom and dad don't exactly qualify for memory care. They're not having any issues right now with short-term memory or certainly long-term memory, whether it be dementia or Alzheimer's. But they do need, and the son or daughter says, they need assistance. Mom can't just keep helping dad take a shower, or just vice versa. And now that brings the question, how and what is assisted living here at Zon? We'll start there.
Sure. So
Okay.
for assisted living, it really encompasses everything that they need on a day-to-day basis, everything from social.
Okay.
I think sometimes people focus on the functional assessment,
Right.
but it's more than, it could be social, it could be the dining experience from a nutritional aspect of, they don't do well at home right now, they're not getting the nutrition, and how can we improve upon their experience in the dining process that then enhances their nutritional intake.
And that is so vitally important, Greg Kennedy, because a lot of seniors think, well, it's okay, I'll make that microwave meal tonight. And you look at the ingredients on the back of that package and you're saying, it contains how much sodium? And you think to yourself, is that really going to help my parents? Well, they retain water. That's a perfect example. And they get all that sodium and they're not getting the proper nutrition. That makes a big difference. And I think the studies come along, and you're nodding your head, Laura. Yes. The fact that, with the proper nutrition, that can help stimulate even memory in many cases and help them remember, hey, I might need a little assistance, taking my medications, but if you put everything together and say, okay, I've got nutrition, I'm being fed well. Now I'm getting my proper medicines. I'm getting them on the time schedule that I'm supposed to. Are you seeing a transition in your residents, Greg Kennedy, with just those factors put into the, result?
Absolutely. I mean, it's every day we see, and we talk about this continually with the staff and the families of, there's always a transition period, but
Right.
You see that change in residents gradually. Sometimes it's really quick, but it's amazing to see once they're in an environment that they get all of those together. You see the changes that are sometimes amazing that maybe it was 10 years ago.
Right.
I hear that from families all the time of, wow, I haven't seen my mom, this social, I haven't seen my mom eat this well in years.
Or they said, boy, mom or dad sure has lost a lot of weight. So that puts up a red flag, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So they know that they're not eating properly. They're not getting socialization. They're not getting stimulation for memory, life enrichment for a person like you. Specifically, Greg Kennedy, what memory care is important when you look at the memory care community? How would you say this evaluation of Zon Beachside comes intact, and how important is it?
In terms of assessing the...
Yeah, like an open concept you had written down that it might be in one way in that concept?
Absolutely. So when we looked at designing the memory care for Zon, we really wanted an experience for the residents that they didn't have to navigate, because it can be very not only challenging for them, but frustrating with hallways and trying to locate their apartment, locate the sitting area. And so our concept was a fully kind of open concept where the apartments open right into the living space.
Okay, good.
It makes it much easier on the life enrichment side to engage residents into the activity because they may require some redirecting. So Laura's and her staff can easily go re-engage them and bring them back to the life enrichment experience. So there's multiple advantages to having the open concept.
I would think that would be a lot easier to navigate, because I've been in different throughout the county and in various states, and boy, it's like a maze to try to find your way around. And I can imagine someone that's a senior, specifically with memory care issues, that it would be, I'm lost. I'm really lost. So with that in mind, do you have I was thinking any type of somebody actually is lost, how do you assess that situation if they're in the hallway? Your staff is always on guard and watching, assessing your residents, I assume, correct?
Correct, and that's what's important. On the memory care side, we don't necessarily see that because they don't have to navigate into hallways and get turned back around.
Okay.
On the assisted living side, it's really just getting them comfortable to their environment. And
Okay.
how do you get them comfortable going from the dining to their apartment, to their...
And being repetitive and showing the route and everything. Now, on your memory care side, you have 2 levels here, the way I understand it. So you have, which level would be the memory care it's on?
On the second floor, we have our memory
Second floor,
care.
okay. Is that on a lockdown specifically? Or, since somebody, a family or person, are they able to take that individual maybe just to get out a little bit?
Absolutely. Laura does that continually through their day.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So that's important. That's good stimulation too.
Yes, and it's planned that way. So the programming is designed so that there's always a blended activity each and every day, and sometimes more. And we encourage them when they're able to come down and enjoy the entertainment that we might have, different activities that we might have, whatever appeals to them. And when they're able, it's great to have them. They function well. It makes them happy. They're not limited.
And that's so important. It is so. I get so many callers from helping seniors of Brevard that say, from a daughter or son, Mom and Dad just need socialization. I don't want them to age, just sitting there watching TV all day. That's not a quality of life. So how would you say that through your life enrichment, Laura Bierbaum, is different than maybe other facilities? How do you compare?
Well, my greatest pleasure is that I get to plan the activities both for the assisted living and the memory care. So in that way, I can create that symbiotic relationship. And my goal from the beginning was to overcome the stigma that is so prevalent at other facilities. People don't want to go to memory care. They don't want to participate. Now, when they get to meet the people that come downstairs, they create friendships. Many times they bond with them.
It'd be a metamorphosis then, huh?
And so I've had some residents from the assisted living that have agreed to come up and be volunteers upstairs. So it's enhancing both of their lives. And so I can blend the 2 communities and hope to overcome the stigma that's
being associated with memory care.
Yes.
What do you find, Greg Kennedy, when somebody comes to Zon the first time and looking around to investigate, moving here? Do you find that what Laura has mentioned, there is a, quote, big stigma about memory care? Am I going to be kind of a confined individual versus what is going to be there? Memory care. What's that make me feel like?
Absolutely.
There
definitely is a stigma in society of their fear of being locked into an area.
Right.
And that's why I think, again, it was important for us to integrate the residents on both sides. Assisted living benefits greatly from assisting the memory care, and memory care benefits greatly from integrating into our happy hours, into the entertainment that occurs, all of those.
Did you say you have happy hour here? Did I hear that right?
Every day.
And what is that happy hour?
We have our own wine label here, so every day they get wine or beer.
Okay.
It's the
And this
social
happens,
function of the day.
Does this happen prior to dinner or just
4 o'clock every day.
4 o'clock every day?
And sometimes it coincides with an activity, and then I learned, it's very fluid programming. Sometimes I've learned they just want to talk.
Well,
So you let them, you allow them the privilege of just talking and not pushing them to play a game or do billiards or whatever they want. But it also is a time when we've had guest speakers, because I know this is the time of the day when people gather.
Yeah.
We've had entertainment. We've had different events that do coincide with the happy hour. But I think it adds to the program sometimes to back off and let them just socialize. That's how they create their bonds.
And I think that's probably the underscore word, because of so many, like I say, seniors that I've talked to who are just not getting any socialization at all. I've talked to so many seniors that are homebound, and I say, well, I'd love to meet you. Oh, no, I'm not going out. You know, this is like they're fearful, and they may not have memory issues, but I can tell that they're not living a quality of life that they need to. And what you both offer here at Zon Beachside is going to make a major difference in the quality of life that they live. And I love the fact that you've got assisted living participating in the memory care. So it's a win-win from both sides. That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Well, Greg Kennedy, what would you say would be the most important for families to consider when they're looking at memory care? What would be the important aspect, you know, the key point? What makes you unique?
I think the thing that I always stress to families is consider future needs, not current needs, because I think so many times it is probably the thing that families do most often is they consider how their loved one is today, and they choose an environment, a facility based on current needs. So I really stress to them, think about the future. Today is sometimes easy.
Right.
The future is the difficult side, and making sure you choose a facility that can meet those future medical, social, environmental, all those needs.
That is such an excellent point, Greg Kennedy, because people don't want to have to say, okay, I've got mom going to assisted living, but I know that there's been some signs in the family history of memory care, dementia, or Alzheimer's. So it could be that gene could be passed on. So why not put them into a specific place where they know and they get to know the staff, so that if the day comes along that they do need to progress into memory care, it's not going to be across town, across state, wherever. So you're keeping them basically under this one roof. And I think for the family's point of view, knowing just that you're right, you've got a plan for the future. You know, you may not want to recognize it at the time they visit here, but you're putting out those facts, right, Greg? To say, I want you to consider when you're looking at a facility, assisted living, memory care, what are your options? Do you really want to move mom from one place to another? You want to have her into a place where she feels comfortable? Laura Bierbaum, you deal with this every day with your residents, and you talk to them and say, you know, are they saying, we're so glad we chose this?
Well, actually, they do.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's wonderful because they wonder, they come in and you never know. It's a new place, just like all of us.
Sure.
You don't know if you're going to like a new neighborhood or a new school or a new job.
Well, moving for a senior is traumatic anyway.
It can be.
You know, they've lived in this house for 30 years, they've raised their children, and now all of a sudden they may move into a studio apartment, all that, those special belongings that they've had. You know, now you pick what it is that you want to bring with you. And maybe what is the name of that box I'm thinking of? It's not a memory box, it's a, where you take, like a keepsake. That you can take, you know, the best of the best, the things that make that person, senior, feel good, because that's a good memory. That's a good memory. What do you have to say about that, Greg Kennedy? You're smiling over here. I can tell you've got a comment. Yeah.
Well, in the memory care, I think that's one of we use the family visit boxes for that exact reason. It's not specialized to the resident themselves, but allows the resident to focus on memories that bring back, you know, positive, you know, memories that they had years ago.
Right.
And so Laura has created those that they can use when they're visiting their loved one. They can open that family visit box, and it might be old kitchen tools. It can be pictures of places they visited, and it triggers a conversation starter for the family.
Start opening up and just saying, oh, I do remember this.
Exactly.
You know, that's a fond memory. And you know, for a lot of seniors too, they grew up in the time where there wasn't technology like we have today. And sometimes the good old-fashioned stuff, whether it be an old photograph or an old song, maybe from the big band era or whatever, just says, yeah, that's where I'm at today. And that, I remember, is where I met my husband, you know? So it may trigger something that just says, so it's a positive. It's a real positive. They may not be apt and computer savvy or anything like that, because in their mind, you know, maybe they grew up on a farm and they remember eating that tomato taken right off the vine. And now you're providing such good food, and this reminds me of the food that I grew up with on my farm. We had access to all this. It was wonderful. Because maybe before they moved into Zon Beachside, assisted living and memory care, they hadn't, as we mentioned, been eating properly. So now even food and the color of food may have a good memory. You know, you just never know, right, Laura?
This is true.
You just don't know. Let's talk about safety for a moment. Greg Kennedy, would you say when you have, you know, the family visiting and so forth, you know, safety is probably one of the most important reasons for choosing a facility.
Absolutely.
How do you explain that to a family member or an individual?
I think it's important for them to truly understand what their loved one's needs are, and each one is so different.
Right.
You know, on the memory care side, do they need a secured unit? And maybe they don't. Just because of their disease doesn't necessarily mean they have to have a secured memory unit. They can still function very well in an assisted living environment. So you look at many factors when we place someone into their appropriate apartment. But I think then beyond that, from a safety factor of what can we do to assist in reducing, you know, safety concerns, whether it be fall concerns, medical concerns, medication concerns is a big factor that many times leads to people moving into assisted living. They just can't manage their medications anymore.
Right.
They're falling at home, all of those.
Major problem. You know, and people don't want to admit that, oh, I'll never fall. What about somebody who says, I don't need a walking device, a cane, a rollator, even a wheelchair. I can just manage just fine.
Well, there's so many factors in a home that you don't consider. The doors aren't wide enough.
Exactly.
You got a tub. All those things that you sometimes take for granted in assisted living are challenges at home, and every time you step over that tub, it's a risk of a fall.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, most falls happen in the bathroom.
Exactly.
So, you know, if senior doesn't have the right space to use it, they'd be in denial, if I can put it in that perspective, of saying, oh, I can just do fine. I'll hold on to the walls to get to where I need to. And I've noticed that here, you've got the railing on at least one side, you know, even coming into the building and everything, that you can feel assured that you're going to be fine. So that safety shows right up front. So I commend you for that, definitely, because that's important. The other thing, I commend both of you in the fact that your staff that you have taken immaculate and spent immaculate attention to detail and cleanliness and tidiness. And yet when you walk in, it's not, it's a warm environment. I'll put it in that perspective. It's a warm environment. And that, to me, is the first impression. You know, you gotta feel welcome. I don't want it looking sterile. You've got nice colors of walls, you know, soft colors, things that make you feel, I mean, color's important, right, Laura?
It's like a beachside resort.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly
Well, that's
what it is.
My golly, is that the name of this place? Well, Laura, Bierbaum, what would you say is the most important aspect of your position, other than what we've talked about? Could you say maybe one sentence, what's the most important thing that you're trying to achieve with the residents here?
I think perhaps the primary thing is that life enrichment is not exclusive to the life enrichment team. It pertains to everybody who touches their life. It could be the housekeeper. It could be the server in the dining room. It could be the person that they come to get their questions answered.
There you
go. It could be our concierge. We all have a part to enrich the lives, and it could be by a simple making eye contact and saying hello, calling them by their name.
And that's so important. And I know as you continue here, it's important that Greg Kennedy has got hands-on executive director. You are definitely hands-on with what you're doing on a more personal level with the residents and so forth. But to be able to say, how are you, Bob? You know, on a first name basis. Yeah. Sometimes I bet they look at you, how'd you remember my name?
That's very true.
Right?
Every day. That's very true.
Well, Greg Kennedy is executive director of Zon Beachside Assisted Living and Luxury. We'll get it straight. We have less than 2 minutes here. I'd like you to look at the audience and tell them from your heart, you know, what you believe are your strengths and where you plan to be in the future.
Sure. You know, we're excited to bring this to the community because it was such a needed facility and services on the beachside. And for us, it's all about expanding on a concept that, again, didn't exist before. So, you know, the Zon 360, everything from the dining experience to the life enrichment, like we talked about, to Zon Relax, which involves Tai Chi classes and yoga and all the benefits that goes along with that, to the salon experiences. And then I think lastly, the most important part for many is Zon Health, which incorporates the technology we're incorporating for passive health monitoring, which is a technology that monitors our residents' health behavior. It's passive in nature. The residents don't wear anything, but it tracks many things. And it goes from a reactive healthcare environment to a proactive, and that's really the difference. Right now, we live in a reactive healthcare environment. Something happens and we react to it. This technology, all of a sudden, now we become more proactive. We get information beforehand, and we can be proactive in how we deal with it.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for watching today's episode of Helping Seniors of Brevard, and I would particularly thank Greg Kennedy and Laura Bierbaum with Zon Beachside Assisted Living and Memory Care. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Kay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we would welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.